Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure review. Today from McFarlane Toys and their DC Multiverse line, we are featuring Batman vs. Kong. Okay, so today is January 28, 2025. This was a deluxe box set that I bought at my local Target here in the United States. If I remember correctly, I think this retailed for either $59 or $69. I'm more inclined to say $69. I wasn't hesitant at all to buy this. If you're a longtime viewer of my channel, you'll remember that I'm a huge Kaiju and Monsterverse fan. I reviewed a number of Godzilla and Kong figures in the past, and this one looks awesome. It's a 12-inch Kong, and it's just incredible. It's a beast of a figure, no pun intended. So this 2-pack is actually, they're pulling from the comic book collaboration between DC Comics and Legendary Comics. I think it was last year or the year before. They did that crossover where it was the Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. And they gave us this Kong figure. And I'm really curious if McFarlane is going to give us a Godzilla also. But, you know, if they do, cool. If not, at least we got this awesome Kong. Also included with the set was this smaller Page Punchers Batman. This is one of the Page Puncher figures that you get in the comic book 2-packs. And it's cool. You know, the reason why this is bundled with a figure set is so you could kind of like, even though it's still a little bit out of scale, you could kind of like have Kong fighting Batman, you know. But it's still a nice figure, despite its small size. And we'll take a look at this real quick. So if you've never handled any of the smaller Page Punchers from the 2-packs, they're about 3 inches tall. And they're articulated. Their heads move. Their arms are articulated at the shoulders. And the legs move. And they also swivel at the hips. This Batman's nice because it retains the very popular black and gray color scheme. And it's kind of like a shrunk down version of the Batman Hush figure that we got maybe 3 years ago. Alright, up next we have the Batman figure. Let's look at this real quick. This appears to be the Batman Hush figure, if I'm not mistaken. It does have a new head though. They replaced the Jim Lee lantern-jawed head with this one here. It's kind of reminiscent of Nightfall Batman. I'm not sure if it's the same head or not. But this is a fantastic Batman figure. I think for a lot of people, the Jim Lee Hush Batman was kind of like their go-to. This guy stands in at, I think, 7 3/4 inches. A really well executed evergreen iconic version of Batman. His head, it's attached on a ball joint on the neck. It's very different than some of the other McFarlane figures, whereas the head's attached to the neck. The neck and the head are actually one solid piece, and they're connected at a ball joint at the pit, which allows for some really, really awesome range of movement, as you can see right there. The arms are articulated. There's that ball-socketed butterfly joint, and it's a standard articulation that we're so used to. Nothing new there. Double-pinned elbows, articulated wrists, with that very Revoltech style ball joint. There's a diaphragm cut mid-torso, which allows him to... It doesn't really crunch forward, but it does arch back a little. The movement isn't as great as I'd like, but it's still there. He does swivel at the waist, and it's cut. You can see it underneath the utility belt. The utility belt is a nice shade of yellow, which provides great contrast against the gray and black bodysuit. He's wearing the black trunks, and then here are the legs ratcheting, and his standard articulation, double pin knees, articulated ankles. The cape's a nice thin material. It's not as flexible as I'd like, but it's very dynamic, has some flow to it. It kind of exceeds his footprint, which might be an issue if you have limited space on your display shelf. And here it is next to a other McFarlane Batman figure from the DC Multiverse line. Just to give you an idea of the size. The older figures felt a lot larger, but the new ones, I think, they're better proportioned. And that is the Batman. Now let's get to the main events. We're going to take a look at Kong. Alright, so we have Kong here from Legendary Comics and the Monsterverse. Much like the Monsterverse cinematic version of Kong, he retains the 3 scars on his body. The head sculpt is beautiful. This is Kong looking at his most feral. He's ferocious, angry. The paint application is beautiful. You'll notice that in his fur, there's some nice shading and highlighting to really give it a sense of layers and volume. Oh, also, before I forget, also included with the set is a trading card, much like most McFarlane figures. I believe this was one of the covers from the Justice League versus Godzilla vs. Kong comic book. And then there's some information about it over here. You know, if you're interested in reading it, I'm sure you can find the trade paperback. And also there's a display base for Batman. But with the Kong figure, you're also getting an alternate portrait. You're getting he's a little bit more calmer in this. But you can tell he's still very stern looking. Again, like the figure, there's some excellent paint application. You know, they really, really do an excellent job of making this thing look as realistic as possible. Beautiful sculpt. And you can see here, this is where the ball joint attaches to the socket. I'm probably going to stick with the angry head because I think that one for me is the one I really like. It's a lot more expressive, a lot more ferocious. The cool thing with this figure too is that even though this is supposed to depict Kong, if you're not too keen on it being a Monsterverse figure, you could actually use this figure as a proxy for the Flash villain Gorilla Grodd. Even though I think we've gotten maybe 2 or 3 Grodd figures in the past, this one just has so much more size to it and mass. And in terms of the articulation, I think, alright, so you have movement in his head, like a swivel. His arms are articulated. They just rotate up and down. And then I believe the wrists are articulated as well with a swivel. His waist does have a cut, allowing him to swivel at the waist. And unfortunately, there is no articulation in the legs or ankles, which I don't mind because the figure is very heavy, and it seems like, you know, if they provided articulation at the hips, that this thing wouldn't be as stable standing up. So I think it's forgivable. But overall, fantastic figure. And the one thing I like about this figure also is that since I'm such a huge collector of Kong and Godzilla action figures, I have some of the Playmates 12-inch Kongs that we could compare it to. So over here we have one of Playmates' Kong action figures. I think this one might be maybe 5 or 6 years old. It's within the 12-inch scale. Much like the other Monsterverse McFarlane figure, he has the 3 scars along his body. But this one's a little bit more articulated. You'll notice that this one, the legs do move at the hips, and then the ankles do swivel. But it's a different, interpretation of Kong. They're about the same size. This guy's 12 inches. This one is here. This one is also. I want to say the McFarlane one wins in terms of the sculpt. This one's still very nice, but it's not at the same level as this guy here. And this is a figure that's been out of print for a long time, so you might have to hunt this one down on the secondary market. So, yeah, this is a Playmates 12-inch Kong. And I have one more Kong. Let me grab that. Alright, so we have the most recent iteration of Kong from the recent Godzilla and Kong movie. This is the one that has the Beast Glove. Again, this is a 12-inch figure as well. Love the facial expression. It's kind of odd because as awesome as this figure is, it doesn't look like Kong from the film. This one actually resembles Kong more so than this one does. Because this one has a lot more gray on his fur, and the facial sculpt looks a little bit different. It's not as screen accurate as I'd like, but that's not to take anything away from this figure. This figure is amazing. And here is the Beast Glove. You know, when Kong gets his arm wrecked, he kind of needs this to recuperate and actually makes him stronger. And he also has multiple scars on his chest as well. So yeah, lots of cool Kong options. The McFarlane one is beautiful though. If you're a fan of Kaiju and the Monsterverse, don't hesitate. If you see this, pull the trigger. You won't regret it. And again, if you're not too keen on it being Kong, it makes an excellent proxy for the DC comic book character Gorilla Grodd. So if the Flash wants to take on Gorilla Grodd, this is the figure to go to. It's so much larger. It's so much more larger than the Grodd figures that we've gotten in the past. And I am stoked to have this trio of Kong figures, and I couldn't be more happy. Alright, so with that being said, let's wrap this one up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. Alright, later.